What's up, and welcome to The Greatest Teacher of All Time, where I, Quincy Dawson, interview teachers to highlight their personalities, strategies, and philosophies. Today, I've got Professor Todd. What's up, Melvin?
Hey, how's it going?
I'm good. Thank you for being here and reaching out to be on the show.
Definitely, it's a great pleasure to be here. Like I'm really excited. Like this is like one of the greatest moments to have an interview and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I'm excited to hear about your teaching and everything. So, before we actually get into it, our topic for today is going to be about the teachers we deserve. But before we get into your story, Melvin, I want to tell people a little about mine. And when I was in school growing up, um, actually, aside from that, when I talk to other teachers, right, or the people in teacher education programs, they all have that one teacher who inspired them to become a teacher, right? Like when they were
Mhm.
young, they were struggling, and like they had a teacher to lift them up and like just really guide them and help them, mentor them. When I was in school, I didn't exactly have that type of person. Like I remember not liking school and not liking the teachers too much either, right? And it made me not want to do well in school or really try. So
Mhm.
when I actually started to become a teacher or made the plans to become a teacher, I actually wanted to become the teacher that I always needed in school, the teacher for Quincy. And Melvin, I get your story is a little different from that, right? Like you had a teacher. Can you tell me about Miss Grandel?
Yes. So actually, for one, Miss Grandel is one of my ultimate favorite teachers in this whole galaxy. And she really formed and built me to become the educator that I am today. Ever since elementary school, and this is at elementary school at St. Peter's Cathedral School in Wilmington, Delaware, went there from K to 8. And all throughout, she really encourages her students to like really do their best. And she takes out her time and effort to really plan and really to talk to us and to really instruct us on like what we need for the world, and also what we need to transition not only for high school but even for the higher levels. And ever since I've begun St. Peter's, I always wanted to become a teacher. And even though I wasn't in her grade in her class, she saw that I wanted to go ahead and teach, that I would go ahead and look at the books and the classrooms, and loved all the teacher equipments. For example, the overhead projectors. The I used to love writing on a chalkboard. I used to love the math.
Oh,
And by the
wow.
time I went to her classroom, she knew me like a book. So, she definitely challenged me, and I had her for math. We had her for advanced algebra with the math. We had her also for coordinate geometry. And this is eighth grade. She's my eighth grade math teacher. And today I found out that she retired. And I'm like, oh wow.
Oh,
But
wow. Yeah.
she's been teaching for a lot of years. And she's a very good instructor. She's taught also spelling, vocabulary, reading skills,
Yeah. It
also
sounds
earth science, and also social studies and religion. So she's taught it all. And not only does she just teach, she really puts emphasis on it and says, okay, I'm going to go ahead and give you these challenging words. I'm going to go ahead and, give you this vocabulary. You're going to go ahead and make vocabulary flashcards. Then you're going to go ahead and draw pictures of your vocabulary words. Then we're going to talk about the salinity of the Earth's water and different types of oceanic zones. And then the math, she made sure we had that algebraic skills before she led us to high school math. And that's what helped me in 2004 get into algebra 1 with algebra 2.
okay. Yeah. I mean, that's great. It sounds like she really helped to inspire you and a lot of other students too. But I'm curious now, do you think all students need like a teacher type of role model? Like,
Absolutely.
why a teacher specifically?
So, for one, if we see the roles of teachers, and we teachers help students day by day, so they see the students way more than more time throughout the weeks, 5 days a week. As I said, more than the parents. So it's like every day, like, okay, they get in the format, they get in the structure. Okay, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, from let's say around 7 or 8:30 all the way to closing time around 2 to 3. And that's time. And these students are producing work. These students are interacting in the classroom. So the teachers are going to sense and indicate where those students are, seeing them day by day for 180 school days. Of course, it's going to register, okay, I know this student by this. I know what the student's capable of. These are the student's strengths. These are the students' this is the feedback that we're getting. This is everything that is being generated onto the whole entire piece of the educational comprehensive period of the day.
Yeah, really. And with that, you said that you teach what, college bound high school students or upward bound high school students, and also a college professor too. Would you consider yourself a role model to them?
Of course. So anyone that I instruct, I always consider as a role model. And usually with that role model, for example, I mean, I always consider myself as a role model to them, as I should say. And, anyone that I instruct, they get my, information because I want them to grow. Not only am I just, okay, here's the answer. Okay, you're done. No, not only I don't do that. I want them to, learn from your answers, learn from your mistakes. Let's go ahead and, let's step outside the textbook. Let's go ahead and see, okay, where can we use this for the real world? Why do you think that this is the case? And, go ahead and broaden the horizons there versus, okay, here's a textbook, here's the work, you do it. Thank you, goodbye. That's one note, and that's non-robust. And again, we're all people. We're humans. We reason.
Yeah. And so for me personally, I've taught at a lot of predominantly white schools, and I feel like my role as a role model is more of being an inspiration or an example of what a positive young Black male can be to these students, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that's how I consider myself role model a lot of the times, in just being the example and also showing them, like, yeah, you can do physics, you can know Newton's laws of motion, everything, but you could also be cool with this other stuff too. I'm cool in some ways.
Yes. And,
But
and
so
also you
what's, I want
I
to
was
ask,
gonna say, oh, I
I'm
was gonna say
sorry.
also, since you mentioned Newton's laws, ironically, that's one of the concepts actually Miss Grandel taught us in the science classes, because I forgot it was earth and physical science. So she actually installed to us, the periodic table, the elements, the electrons, the protons. We even made jello, talking about like different types of colloidals. We talked about matter in her classroom and stuff. And even we drew, I remember, yeah, back in 2004, we drew characters of the different elements that represent, like, for example, oxygen and neon and stuff. We drew different superheroes with those. So again, she had us really get our, not only our, our left brains, but our right brain stimulated with everything, with their creativity, to really enhance the learning skills in reading, math, social studies, and ELA, and also in science as well.
Yeah, I could definitely tell Miss Grendel made a huge impact on your life. Hopefully she's watching too. We'll send this to her.
Yes, definitely. Yes, definitely.
Yeah, but with that and her being your role model, what type of role model do you think you are to your students?
So definitely, for one, influential, because I want students to definitely grow and to learn from their mistakes. So I always encourage students to make mistakes, and I always say, you can do it. Go ahead, especially given math being a challenging topic. For example, people distaste algebra because the thing is, it's too much stuff that's written down, and there's no robusticity, there's no robust instruction and meaning behind it. It's like, okay, let's just memorize what Pythagorean theorem is. Here it is, you memorize it, and it's not concrete and it's not constructive. And that's why I want students to learn and grow. And even I provide supplemental instructions with materials to really help enhance, like, for example, polynomials. I have these tools right here from ETA, hands-on learning, to really supplement if I'm teaching polynomials or the polynomial division, multiplication. Hands-on stuff really does make the learning more concrete. And, as a role model person, that's why I want students to, to go ahead and try and, show me, what a polynomial is. Go ahead and construct for me what Pythagorean theorem, like what is buzzing your mind besides on paper. Where can we see this modeled at? We can do it with buildings, popsicle sticks, anything that makes concrete. That's why I always have the indicator and say, okay, students learn better hands-on, and students, resonate when I instruct them. Therefore, building that whole role model relation.
Yeah, I get that. And I think it's really important to be inspiring in that aspect, but also have the content down, which it definitely seems like you have. Like that's already setting a great example.
Absolutely, especially when it comes to content in mathematics, such as there's different areas. We have our algebra areas, which students are introduced to equations, and I always say students are introduced to equations from kindergarten, first grade, because it's like, okay, something plus three was four. What's the missing number? And automatically we rarely know that, but it's the same process within algebra. It's like undoing it, and that's why I show. Same thing with geometry. We know we want to go ahead and have stuff structured. We want to go ahead and have foundation. We have space. We have volume. We have measure. We have time. Same thing with trigonometry. We have triangular values. We have things that are periodic, that are continuous, like heartbeats. I can go in a DJ booth, those music waves. Everything builds on that foundation of mathematics. Same thing with structure. We all have different operation. Everything's built and solidified. Okay, why do we have addition? Why do we have multiplication? What are things that I can allow to happen within those operations? And then also we have a field of mathematics, which is logic. Are we telling the truth? Are we telling anything? Are we telling a lie? Does this make sense? Do I know that this is congruent? Do I know that, if I have a square root of anything, that is considered, rational or, irrational? And these are different types of modes and different areas in math that, we have to focus on nowadays, because in the future, we see a lot of coding. We see these robotics that do self things that, is taking away from, human activity, self-driving cars, machines that do self things, and they require a lot of coding and a lot of logic and script.
Yeah, yeah, Melvin, you bring up a lot of different subjects. And with all those subjects, I think next I want to talk about the importance of different types of people teaching those subjects. So
Mm-hmm.
on one of your posts on Instagram, right, you said this caption: as a Black male mathematics educator and professor and graduate from those two schools you mentioned, I'm real adamant about this one. They seriously need more Black teachers teaching core material, not
Mm-hmm.
paraprofessionals, not support staff, but actually Black educators. Can you tell me a
Exactly.
little about that? Like, where did that stem
Oh,
from? I get you're really passionate.
absolutely. So this all stems from my career path within me getting instruction from my two schools. I went to St. Peter's Cathedral School, also in Wilmington, and also St. Elizabeth High School, which is also in Wilmington. And that was my K through 12 years. Elementary school, middle school with St. Peter's, and then high school 9 to 12 at St. Elizabeth. And all those teachers I've had were white, or were mixed. Although some were like mixed, but they were basically white. And as I'm looking nowadays, I go back to schools I visit, I see online, and unfortunately, they don't hire or provide any instruction from a person of color.
Now,
And
I want to get into like, what is the issue with that?
the issue is that the population that those schools receive are starting to become more and more of students of color. For example, me, for instance, I was a student at those two schools, and I want to see myself teach those subject matters. And this is why I became the teacher that I am now, because I want to see more of us. For example, I go into the math classes, you know it's white staff. You go into English classes, it's white staff. And these students that are of color are just seeing, I just have white instructors, and stuff like that. And as a side note, and this is a really sad story, one of my friends who actually taught at my elementary school a couple years ago, we're really close friends because I've seen her at the Christmas bazaars and she helped me through education. She had a kindergartner student at the same school, same shoes that I was in, walk up to her and tell her, do I have to become white in order to be a teacher?
Interesting.
And this is why, again,
And wait,
these
one more
kids,
time. This was your friend who was your age, or this was a student, or?
This was on my friend. She's around my age, and
Uh,
she actually taught at my elementary school back.
So
I'll
wait,
say,
she
yeah.
she made that comment as an adult or as a student?
So this is a student walking up to her. So she made this comment as a student,
A student. Gotcha,
Yes,
gotcha.
it's a little girl of color that walked up to her and told her, "Do I need to become white in order to become a teacher?" So that goes into my statement that I made on Instagram, is that these kids are watching. They're like sponges, and even myself, we're seeing that, okay, this instruction is being done by whites, and it's like, where are our people? Where are we? Where are the all of the color teachers? Like, where are we when we stand in the classroom and stuff like that?
Yeah, Melvin, I want to jump in on that and highlighting because we hear that argument a lot, but I feel like that argument is always like misinterpreted to think we don't want white teachers teaching English. We don't want white teachers teaching math. It's not that. It's the fact that we need different teachers representing these different fields, right?
Absolutely.
Like it's important to see a black teacher because it makes you think, oh, I can be a black teacher now. It's important to see a black doctor because it makes me think, oh, I can be a black doctor now, right? Like I feel like a lot of people don't realize how limiting it is if you just don't see it.
It is, and again, this is what we need, that represent. That's why we need this representation. That's why I urge students, and it goes right back to the earlier questions you asked. That's why I do a lot of mentoring, because in these fields, that's where I want to see more. I'm like, okay, you can do this. Go ahead and do the STEM field. We need us, so it's more of us in that. And and we see, it's like, okay, yeah, we definitely not only can, because we have plenty of times. I mean, going back to the beginnings, I mean, we created the whole mathematics, but still know that retention is like, yeah, it's there,
Yeah, that's exactly it. And with this, so you said you went to a predominantly white high school, private high school, but then your college was historically black college, right?
Yes.
Can you tell me about the types of teachers you saw from from the private school to the HBCU and what the differences were?
Absolutely. So yeah, so just to even just to start initially, so from the elementary school where Miss Grandel was and stuff like that, so the staff members were white. The instruction the teachers were white. Now we did have two pairs, but they were black.
Mm-hmm.
But the staff was white. Us as a student body, we were predominantly black at St. Peter's Cathedral.
Interesting.
So,
Okay.
so from St. Peter's Cathedral, from eighth grade to ninth grade year at St. Elizabeth High, that school was predominantly white. So it was a culture shock to me, not only with, being introduced to new classmates, but also, the pacing and stuff, because a lot of the classmates that I've had have been to that school from elementary school. So they were already used into their ways, and they were predominantly white. They were all white, I should say, for statistics. So they were in their ways. So it was, a big culture shock in transitioning and, getting into their path and, what they do and stuff. But, I've definitely meshed through and, made it through. However, the teachers were still white. Now, going from 12th grade year into college, into Delaware State University in Dover, Delaware. So I went from, this is me going from predominantly white high school to an HBCU. So this is another flip, because I'm going not only into, again, another zone. This is another culture shock, because I was used, to the white student body, and then going back into the predominantly black student body at Delaware State University. So it was a culture shock. The instructors there were mostly people of color. For example, in the English department, in our math department, we had a few teachers of color, but in our math department, this is another thing too. We had a lot of other foreign teachers. For example, we had a lot of teachers from India. We had teachers from China, a couple from Japan, some Arab teachers and stuff. So it was a big culture shock. And also, this was where I was introduced to instructors becoming titled doctor. And, getting the transition of like, okay, when you go into these universities and stuff, we have to address them by doctor or professor, sometimes Miss or Mr., but they have their doctoral, we have to address them by doctor. So it was a lot of, again, transition. So the answer to your question is, it was a big transitional period. It was a big culture shock. It was just, bouncing back to code. But guess what? I've learned from all of this. And that's why, I can deal with any types of situations, any types of like, populations, any types of, relations, because I've been, all over and culturally bound. So it is a great experience. But transitioning at first, it was hard. But it's like bringing a fish in from a pond to a fish tank with a whole bunch of other fish. This is a lot of getting used to and being coded. So
Yeah.
it's anywhere, just like moving.
Yeah, I definitely hear you in that the diversity of the types of people you have leading you or being role models to you definitely does matter, right? Like it
Absolutely.
doesn't always help to have an all white teachers or it doesn't and it also doesn't help to have all black teachers, right? It's some type
Yeah.
of mix of that diversity.
Yeah. So our thing is like just like a mix, like a good representation of our populations is our theme, and that's
Exactly
what
that.
we need. Because, for example, I'm looking at I'll give you an example. Look at my notebook. As you see, it's comprised of like, you can see I'm definitely with the space and stuff. If you can see it from there, you
A
can see
little
it's like
bit.
comprised of like different, different. It's a mixture, and going back to talking about our compounds and elements, different our mixtures and stuff. So mixture to represent our whole entire population is what's needed.
Yeah, that's a cool analogy you got there. I want to talk specifically about um, the types of teachers or teaching styles that we need in colleges, right? Like, for example, you teach upward bound students who are high school about to transition into college, right? But I feel
Mhm.
like there's a stigma or really just experience I've had with college STEM classes where they're boring. They're boring, or the teachers don't use any of the hands-on learning experiences
Oh
that
yeah.
teachers in high school do with their teacher prep programs. It's like all that
Mhm.
is forgotten once you get to college, which I think that's when you may need it even more. What do you think on this?
Absolutely. So you definitely hit the nail on the head, because guess what? I tell my students, no matter what grade that I teach or no matter what class, it could be from a 400, 500 graduate level class, all the way to, freshman in high school, algebra one or integrated math one, is that I hate boring lectures. And the thing about it is when these professors have a lot of lectures, all they do, is just, is teaching from the book. It's not robust. And what happens is the students are like getting lost. It's like, okay, like we're just copying down notes. And it just becomes a whole just note-taking class. Like, okay, let me just jot down notes, just jot down notes. And that's what we're doing. It's like, okay, what are we connecting the notes for? Like why am I doing this? Like what's
Yeah.
the whole purpose? And these instructors don't defy purpose when they teach. And me being an educator, me studying this, even from ever since first grade on, is that, I've always taken look, as I said, first grade, I always watched my, teachers teach, and they have cool materials. They bring in stuff. They used to use the overhead projector. And then once the smart boards got launched on, I was, super obsessed with using smart board. And even now I have my drawing pad right here, is that with those lessons is that we need to go ahead and have more creative instructions with hands-on, because the hands-on is what's going to model and what's going to demonstrate the why am I doing this, especially for career paths. I mean, for example, think about, the doctors and nurses in their clinicals. Do they just have notes, and then they, graduate, and then, they're working on somebody? No, they have to work on people first. They have to, they have to learn patients. They have to, have different, test dummies. They have to know different procedures. So they have to have this whole tactile kinesthetic learning. And that's the same thing that needs to have consistency with the mathematics, no matter whether it's all the way from, elementary to, with number and place value to fraction and decimal, even all the way to the linear systems. Because guess what? You can take popsicle sticks or skewers, like for example, and create a linear equation or function or system.
Easily.
It's
Why, wait, Melvin, why do you think they don't do that though? Like, why are all the teaching strategies taught to high school teachers forgotten once we get to college? Like, what is that with that?
So there's three reasons why. So again, the first reason is going back to, these educators don't have purpose because, they're just doing notes on the board just to get it over with, just to say, okay, here you go, just gonna regurgitate it to you, take it, leave it. I'm done. I still get paid. That's one of the reasons, and it's hurting the students. The second reason is a lot of people say there's not enough time. My thing is you can add these in there. Like if you cut some of the stuff out and say, okay, you look at the lesson and say, okay, what's the redundant junk we don't need? Let's just go ahead and just make it hands-on. For example, we're talking about quadratics, going back to your whole trajectory motion in physics. We toss stuff in the air, we have gravity that pulls it down. Why don't we represent quadratics as, launching stuff or throwing things, in the air? And again, it makes a quadratic equation. You see, when I just throw this object, look, we have ourselves a quadratic equation right there that we can model with the maximum, intercepts to represent when it hits the ground. You see, it's all in a nutshell. And another third thing that they steer away from it, and this is why I want to break this show right now, is that these educators say that, oh, they're just for kids. They don't need those in high school. Oh, they have to be, they're too mature. Well, guess what? What happens is when these people get into the high school and college math, they always say, why am I doing this? What am I doing this for? Why do I need to know this? Well, guess what? You took away the why am I doing this because you say, oh, it's immature. Oh, it's, well, guess what? It's really not, because it serves the purpose of where these kids are going to, or where these people are going to use this in real life. You have to do these hands-on stuff. You have to make it more concrete. Even if I'm talking about a limit, talk about pipes. We make limits with, spaghetti and different types of pasta to represent where stuff opens up, where stuff doesn't have existence on graphs. That's where it is. I mean, all in a nutshell, it's something that's there. This is not abstract. It's stuff that's concrete. And now you have it for a purpose. Therefore, now I see it as a real world application.
Yeah, I get you, Melvin. I definitely think that one point you said about not having enough time and the college lectures being condensed, I guess, but I don't know, maybe the labs make up for the extra time. I also agree with you saying that college professors think, oh, my students are too mature. They don't need the kid stuff. But I agree with them saying that and thinking that, but I am also confident as a teacher to say, hey, that is not true. Like everyone needs the concrete tactical methods.
Amen. And really quick, for example, if I'm talking about, back in the algebra where we have talking about saying that, someone does represents like this, let's say that this brick represents someone doing like a job or teaching, and it takes them this much time. And we say, well, Susan takes about almost like 2/3 of the time. We can model whatever the time is. Look, right
Come
here.
on, Melvin. This is perfect. This is perfect. Yeah, those are the exact type of examples that can be used for many concepts in math.
And guess what? You know what these are? These are Cuisenaire rods that are used for counting. I use these as unknown variables because if we know one thing and we don't know the other, but it's either half of it or 3/4, we can use it as models, and the students really understand it. And I show my chair is impressed. My chair is like, you know what? I wish I had these. I wish I had, learned how to do this. Go ahead.
But the thing is, but Melvin, the thing is, I don't think there's anything stopping them from learning these new methods to teach. I feel like They just don't want to. But your first point that you said about educators not, or the educators in college don't have that purpose, I don't know if I fully agree with that statement, but I would think it's more of some college professors, to them, education is not their purpose. It may be something else, but educating others may not be it. But I definitely hear you on those other points.
True. And as I said, it's like, we have to we have to be there for the students. And this is where it goes back to. And it's like, for example, if we have these educators and are not, there for the students, and it's like, okay, I'm just going to go ahead and just, teach out of the notebook, class is over, I'm not going to serve it. And if it's one note, then, there's no care. There's no, it's lackluster. It's like, okay, he's just throwing stuff on the board, because of, he, doesn't have any care, or, just saying, okay, here you go. But then, we have the ones that say, okay, well, this is the stuff that's, that's in the book. This is the why we have it. And, it's almost like a car. For example, when you drive a car, you get a smooth ride. But however, if you have car trouble, you get the feel of it. It starts shaking. You get indicator lights. You get it doesn't perform well. It gets low performance. It's still driving, but you get bumps. You get, okay, it's you can sense it. So it's all about getting the sense of, okay, and the drive in the field of, okay, is this instructor really driving the class and pitching the lesson appropriately and stuff? Or, is it like, okay, is it going to be one note where it's like, I just give the kids the worksheet, they just do it and just let them and just teach and just sit there, or, not show any care. So it goes to the drive and say, okay, yes, I'm really motivated. This is what it is versus, all right, we're just gonna do this. Here's the notes. Here's the worksheet. Goodbye. So it's that drive, like just like, again, how a car performs.
Yeah, Melvin, I can already tell you're a king of the metaphors, king of the analogies. I love it.
Thank you.
My last question, just to close this out. Why exactly are you teaching, Melvin?
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
Why are you teaching?
Oh, why am I teaching? So again, teaching is definitely my calling, is my purpose. And a lot of people tell me, like, why do you want to teach? And ever since going back to in the beginning, ever since like, first grade, I've seen how instruction is. Used to love writing on the chalkboard. I used to love going up in the chalkboard. I love talking, as you can see. I love, showing
we know.
Mm-hmm. And my biggest role on instruction is showing people that the difficult things can easily be done. And I've been there and I had a lot of pitfalls. And this is another great example I'm going to toss in. So going back to St. Elizabeth, my around my 11th grade year, this is when I had Algebra 2 going into pre-calc. Unfortunately, it was a really honors class and it was fast paced and I had a lot of things going on. And, I kind of slacked off and didn't do so well. And, Algebra 2 is really rigorous. Algebra 2 does a lot of functions. It's basically the heartbeat of any higher math. So, I became lackluster and, almost like almost basically crashed the course where I had to retake it over again. And, that didn't settle well. So I had to buckle down, use resources, find things online, use other different textbooks. And I have plenty of textbooks over there, by the way, I have a whole bookshelf. And I had to, see I had to see how different things, operate and function. So I was like, you know what, this works. Let me think about quadratics as being a bowl shape. Let me represent logarithms as, as almost like the L in logs, almost like a bent straw. And actually, I use that lesson for teaching logarithms. And also I use pipe cleaners to represent functions. So I thought about that. When I thought about those relations to the mathematics in those ways, my grade dramatically increased from going from 64 to my teacher showing me that I've scored a 104% on a unit test. Spring semester in that course.
Yep, that's it.
And I use that testimony not only for my students, but that's why I love teaching the course Algebra 2, because I know how rigorous it is. And, again, if it's not handled appropriately or instructed appropriately, students can become lost. Students can easily get, sidetracked, and, they can veer off into, I'm done with this course. But that's why we have to go ahead and enhance it, do fun stuff, make like different sound waves out of trig, do different triangles. And that's why I snag algebra 2. Whenever there's algebra 2s given to me, I'm like, no, I want to let me teach algebra 2. These students need me to teach it. Pre-calculus, give me pre-calc. I want to teach pre-calc because, again, I've crashed and burned in that course, and I know the areas that students fall off in. And that's why, I pace them and tell them, okay, this is what it is. Think about it this way. It's going to look tricky, but you can do it. Just think about it as this. And we have a smooth oil machine going on throughout the course. And they come back to me and they're like, you know what? You helped me, Messiah. You helped me get into calculus. Calculus is really smooth. All those tricks you taught me with composition of functions, all those, drawing out the whole table to multiply polynomials have saved me big time with limits. Derivatives, that you teaching me the exponent rules to drop the exponents, and you show me why, and we did the exponent lab with the M&Ms. I remember that, and it makes sense. And that's why, again, that teaching is my calling.
Yeah, I love to hear it, Melvin. Thank you for sharing all of this insight, your metaphors, your examples, your passion for education. It's great. And this is really one of the reasons why I think you might be one of the greatest teachers of all time.
Thank you. And real quick, again, as a token that I always get, I always love to collect my old textbooks that I've basically have used in the past. And this is like one of the spelling books I've used I think like 20 years. It's like the 6th grade spelling book. And again, I've used this, just to remember and just to retain everything. And even for literacy, I still have the teacher edition from my old textbook, that reading textbook that I've used 20 years. And again, these are great things that I just incorporate and just take as a token of me, as my travels and stuff.
Yeah, that's great. Teachers never stop building their collection, as you can clearly see. All right. Thank you to everyone else for watching The Greatest Teacher of All Time, where I interview teachers of color from all over to highlight their strategies, personalities, and philosophies on education. See you soon.